The greatest love story of your life is not with another person. It is with a ghost that lives inside your own soul. And until you meet that ghost, every relationship you ever have will be a tragedy. A beautiful, intoxicating, and utterly doomed performance. Carl Jung, the master cartographer of the human psyche, discovered this ghost. He gave it a name, and today we are going to introduce you to it. Think about your love life for a moment. You fall fast for someone who feels perfect. For a while, it's magic. Then it fades. The same fights return. The same frustration. You feel unseen, unheard, stuck in a story you know too well. You think you're choosing new people, but somehow it's always the same play with new actors. You blame them. You blame yourself. You even blame the whole dating scene. People say, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. They say you're just too different. That's not true. It's a lie that keeps you lost in the same loop of confusion and heartbreak. Jung offered a more profound and more dangerous explanation. He argued that the biggest obstacle to love is not the person in front of you. It is the person inside of you. An unconscious, idealized image of the opposite sex that secretly rules your desires, your expectations, and your disappointments. For men, he called this the Anima. For women, the Animus. Today, we are going to deconstruct this hidden psychological theater. We will show you how your relationships are not a meeting of two people, but a chaotic clash of four. And we will give you the key to transforming that war into a conscious, beautiful dance. To understand the power of the Anima and Animus, you must first accept a radical idea. You are not a monolith. Every man has a feminine dimension to his psyche. Every woman has a masculine one. This is not about modern politics. This is about ancient archetypal psychology. Jung believed that for us to be whole, we must integrate these opposite energies within ourselves. But most of us don't. We are raised in a culture that demands we choose a side. Boys are taught to suppress their feminine qualities, their sensitivity, their intuition, their need for connection. Girls are taught to suppress their masculine qualities, their assertiveness, their logical independence, their desire for agency. All this rejected energy doesn't disappear. It goes into the shadow. It coalesces into a powerful, autonomous figure in our unconscious. A figure that is a composite of all our experiences with the opposite sex, our first parent, our first love, characters from stories, myths, and films. This is your inner other, your soul image. And here is the mechanism of the tragedy. When we are unconscious of this inner figure, we cannot find it inside ourselves, so we are compelled to find it outside. We project it onto the real people we meet. You don't fall in love with a person. You fall in love with a screen for your own projection. This is the great, intoxicating, and dangerous illusion of falling in love. It is not a meeting. It is a hallucination. And this hallucination plays out differently for men and for women. For a man, this inner presence is called the Anima, the hidden feminine inside him. She holds his soul, his depth, his sense of feeling and meaning. When he loses touch with her, life starts to feel flat and empty. He feels cut off from purpose, from warmth. So he starts searching for her outside himself. Then he thinks he's found her in a real woman. This is why a man can become completely drawn to someone who seems like his opposite. The quiet, logical professor falls for the wild, creative artist. The hard, stoic businessman is captivated by the soft, emotional woman. He is not seeing her. He is seeing his own missing half. He sees in her all the life, all the feeling, all the soul that he has suppressed in himself. He thinks, she completes me. But Jung would say, no, she is merely reminding you that you are incomplete. The man possessed by his anima projection is a man in a trance. He idealizes the woman. He puts her on a pedestal. In his eyes, she's perfect, a goddess, a muse, someone who can save him from his own emptiness. He turns into the nice guy, always trying to please her, afraid to lose her. He drops his goals, his friends, his values. Soon, his whole life starts to spin around her, like a moon with no light of its own. But no real woman can live up to the fantasy of a goddess. Eventually, the mask cracks. He begins to see her flaws, her humanity, and he feels betrayed. She is not who I thought she was. The truth is, she never was. The betrayal was not hers. It was the betrayal of his own naive projection. The magic fades, and what is left is resentment and disappointment. He has not had a relationship. He has had an obsession, and he is doomed to repeat it, hunting for the next screen, the next muse, until he finally has the courage to stop looking outside and to meet the woman who lives inside of him. Now, let's flip the mirror, because this is not a one-sided tragedy. For a woman, this inner ghost is the Animus, her unconscious masculine. He is the keeper of her inner logic, her agency, her power, her connection to the world of ideas and action. When a woman is disconnected from her own Animus, she can feel passive, powerless, and lacking in direction. So she searches for him in the outer world. She projects him onto a real man. Długa pauza minus 3 secondi. This is why a woman can be drawn to men who seem to possess an almost godlike certainty and authority. The brilliant but arrogant professor, the powerful but ruthless CEO, the charismatic but emotionally distant artist. She is not seeing him. She is seeing her own undeveloped potential for power and agency. She sees in him all the direction, all the logic, all the worldly competence that she has been taught to suppress in herself. She thinks, he is so strong. He knows what he wants. What her psyche is really saying is, he is everything I am not allowed to be. A woman possessed by her animus projection is also in a trance. She can become incredibly submissive, handing over her own authority and power to the man she has idealized. She makes him her guru, her king, the source of all truth. She lives through his achievements, his ideas, his battles. Her own inner voice grows silent, replaced by the echo of his. This is the classic damsel in distress dynamic. She is unconsciously waiting for a hero to give her life a script, a direction, a meaning. But no real man can live up to the fantasy of a god. Eventually, the mask cracks. She begins to see his flaws, his insecurities, his humanity, and she feels a crushing disappointment or a violent rage. He is not the man I thought he was. She feels betrayed, but again, the betrayal was not his. It was the betrayal of her own projection. He was never a god. He was just a man. A flawed, imperfect man who was happy to play the role of a god for a while, because it fed his own ego. And she is doomed to repeat this cycle, searching for the next hero, the next authority, until she finally has the courage to stop looking for a king and to find the king who lives inside of her. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Carl Jung. Now, imagine what happens when these two unconscious projections meet. A man possessed by his anima, desperately seeking a goddess to give him a soul, meets a woman possessed by her animus, desperately seeking a god to give her a purpose. This is not a relationship. It is a psychological car crash, disguised as a fairy tale. In the beginning, it is perfect. It is intoxicating. Each person is perfectly fulfilling the other's unconscious need. He worships her as his muse, and she feels seen and adored. She admires him as her hero, and he feels powerful and respected. They are not in love with each other. They are in love with the feeling of being completed by the other. It is a perfect, symbiotic, and utterly unconscious contract. But the unconscious is not static. It is a dynamic, living thing. And the contract is built on a lie. Sooner or later, reality begins to creep in. The man starts to feel suffocated by the woman's constant need for his direction. He feels drained by his role as the strong one. He begins to resent her, and his own repressed anima begins to turn dark. The beautiful goddess he once projected onto her transforms into a monstrous, devouring mother, a siren luring him to his doom. He starts to see her not as a source of life, but as a cage. Simultaneously, the woman starts to feel frustrated by the man's emotional distance. His strength now feels like coldness. His authority feels like control. She begins to see his flaws, his insecurities, and she feels contempt. And her own repressed animus begins to turn dark. The heroic king she once projected onto him transforms into a critical, tyrannical father, or a weak, pathetic boy. She starts to see him not as a hero, but as a prison warden. This is the point where the arguments start. The bitter, circular, unwinnable arguments. because they are not arguments between two conscious people. They are arguments between four ghosts. The man's conscious ego is fighting the woman's dark, critical animus. The woman's conscious ego is fighting the man's dark, devouring anima. It is a war of shadows, and no one can win, because no one is even talking to the right person. They are screaming at the ghosts of their own past, projected onto the face of the person they once claimed to love. This is the tragic psychological theater that most people call a relationship. So you see the prison, a hall of mirrors where you never meet another person, only distorted reflections of your own unlived self. You are a puppet pulled by the invisible strings of your own inner ghost. The quality you are most desperately seeking in another person is the very quality you have most brutally rejected in yourself. You are not looking for a partner. You are on a search and rescue mission for the lost parts of your own soul. And you will keep choosing partners who are nothing more than treasure maps, pointing to the gold you have buried in your own backyard. The problem is, you keep trying to possess the map instead of following it home. So how do you break free from this theater of ghosts? How do you stop chasing reflections and start having a real relationship with yourself and with another? Jung's answer is the great, difficult work of individuation. It is the process of withdrawing your projections and integrating your own inner other. It is the journey of becoming whole by yourself. This is not a quick fix. It is the work of a lifetime, but it begins with 3 courageous, practical steps. First, identify your ghost. You must become a detective of your own desires. Look at the pattern of people you have been drawn to. What is the common thread? Are you, as a man, always drawn to the damsel in distress, the chaotic artist, the woman who needs saving? That is your anima. Are you, as a woman, always drawn to the powerful, authoritative, but emotionally distant man? That is your animus. Give this pattern a name. See it for what it is, not a preference, but a program. Once you have identified the pattern, you must starve it. This means making a conscious, and often painful, choice to walk away from people who fit that pattern, no matter how intense the chemistry feels. That chemistry is not a sign of compatibility. It is a sign of your complex being activated. It is the siren song of your own familiar tragedy. You must have the courage to sail past it. Second, date your own soul. Instead of seeking your missing qualities in another person, you must begin to cultivate them in yourself. If you are a man who has always projected his anima, who feels disconnected from his own emotional and creative life, you must begin to date your own inner woman. This means carving out time for activities that nourish the soul, not just the ego. Learn to play an instrument. Write poetry. Spend time in nature. Practice meditation. Learn to be still and listen to your own feelings without judgment. You are learning to give yourself the soul you are once desperately seeking in her. If you are a woman who has always projected her animus, who feels powerless and lacking in direction, you must begin to date your own inner man. This means practicing agency and authority in your own life. Start a business. Learn a martial art. Master a complex, logical skill. Learn to manage your own finances. Stop asking for permission. Start making decisions. You are learning to give yourself the power and direction you were once desperately seeking in him. Third, transform your inner dialogue. You must consciously engage with your inner anima or animus. Jung's technique of active imagination is powerful here. Have a dialogue with this inner figure. Ask her or him questions. What do you want? What do you fear? What part of my life have I neglected? You are not just talking to yourself. You are building a bridge between your conscious ego and the vast, wise world of your unconscious. As you do this, the anima or animus begins to transform. The devouring mother becomes the wise muse. The tyrannical father becomes the supportive king. This inner figure stops being a ghost that haunts you and becomes an ally that guides you. The path of individuation is a lonely one. It often means a period of solitude, a period of withdrawing from the world of relationships to do the deep internal work. But here is the beautiful final paradox. The man who has integrated his anima no longer needs a woman to be his soul. He has his own. And because he is whole, he is no longer drawn to fragmented women. He becomes magnetic to a woman who is also whole. The woman who has integrated her animus no longer needs a man to be her spine. She has her own. And because she is whole, she is no longer drawn to tyrants or projects. She becomes magnetic to a man who is also whole. This is the foundation of what Jung called conscious relationship. It is not a meeting of two halves, desperately trying to become one. It is a meeting of two whole individuals, choosing to walk their separate but parallel paths together. There is no more projection. There is no more possession. There is only seeing the other person for who they truly are, in all their flawed, beautiful, human glory, and choosing to love them anyway. This is the love that does not trap. This is the love that liberates. It is the rarest and most beautiful thing in the world. But it is a love that you can only find after you have had the courage to find yourself. If this message has resonated with you, if you are tired of the theater of ghosts, if you are ready to stop chasing reflections and start the journey of becoming whole, then make your declaration. Join the men and women who are choosing consciousness. Go to the comments and declare your commitment to the great work. Write, I am whole. It is a declaration of your new path, a commitment to becoming the person you have been seeking all along. Subscribe to the Thinker's Codex. The real journey begins within.